During the war, and just after the war, 2 or 3 times every week, our nanny, rather than my mother, used to bring myself and my brother Francis, and later my brother Alan, in a pram, just down the hill from the house, a couple of 100 yards, to what we always knew as Bulley's Gardens. And there was a gate opening onto the main road, which wasn't a terribly main road then, rather more main now. And we'd step through this gate into this utterly extraordinary other world, which I still remember with amazing clarity. And we're standing, the gate is no longer there, but we're standing in the gardens now, and they don't look that different. And 1 or 2 of the trees are gone. A big willow tree is no longer here, but by and large it brings back a great number of memories. In those days, as I say, they were called Bulley's Gardens. Now they seem to have a range of names: Ness Gardens, Bulley's Gardens still, and the University of Liverpool Botanic Gardens more formally. And we're going to wander about a bit and talk to Ken Hulme, who's director of the gardens. Right, Ken, well, as I said, when I was a child, these were known as Bulley's Gardens, but I knew nothing of the history of them then, and I know nothing of it out now. Can you tell us about them?
Yes, the gardens were founded by A.K. Bulley in 1898. He was a remarkable man. He was a very successful businessman, and he made a lot of money. He made his money primarily out of cotton, and he decided that it was a very good thing to encourage people to garden. It would be a healthy and interesting activity for the ordinary member of the population. He opened the garden to the public, he welcomed the public in, people were keen to come here. Very often they could see plants of unusual Chinese species and Himalayan species in cultivation here, when they were available nowhere else.
That's right. It was obviously, I mean, apart from that, I mean, obviously we didn't appreciate that as children. It was just an extraordinary place to come and play. It's an extension to our own garden up the hill.
Yes. He was very, very keen on providing great splashes of colour, and he liked to mingle with the public and find out their reaction to his creation.
So I might even have seen him pottering about when I was as a very young child, and he was a very old man.
You may possibly have done so.
Somebody I seem to recall was very keen on pampas grass back in those days. There was a lot of pampas grass
around. There's a lot of pampas grass still here. There's a great drift of pampas grass here, and it's a great feature in the autumn period.
Yeah, so what's happened to the garden since the war then?
During the war, of course, A.K. died, and at the end of the war, his daughter decided the place should have a future. And in 1948, she presented the whole estate, which was then roughly 25 acres of garden and roughly 40 acres of farmland, to the University of Liverpool, with an endowment of £75,000, which was a fairly considerable sum of money in those days. As a matter of fact, I met one of the old businessmen in the village who told me that in 1948 he could remember going into the local bank here and finding the bank manager absolutely quivering. In those days, the manager served at the counter, and he said, "You know what has happened? Miss Bulley has just come in. She's made over the estate to the university, and she's signed a cheque for £75,000.
I remember Mrs. Bulley as, I never actually saw, this would be the widow, of course, as a rather remote figure living in a big red house on the top of the hill. But when she was a younger woman, she and her husband were very much involved in the community life, were they?
Oh, very much so. She always ensured that each child of the village received an apple and an orange and a shilling at Christmas time. Yes. She was known as a person to whom she could be turned for help. And there are all sorts of stories. I think one of the most delightful stories was of the time when a man burgled the property, and she inquired about his circumstances, found he lived in a miserable cottage that didn't even have a bath in it, and so she gave him the freedom of the bathroom every Sunday morning.
Hey, you don't encounter that sort of generosity today, I don't think, or very seldom.